Yeah. Okay. So नमस्कार समस्त को जगन्नाथ आशीर्वाद नहीं कि दीटा भजन परिवेशन करने को जाऊँगी समस्त आशीर्वाद दरकार प्रथम भजन टी राम भजन श्री रामचंद्र भजन नेक्स्ट भजन टी श्री कृष्ण का भजन गणपतये नमः। प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 पाप कटे दुख मिटे पाप कटे दुख मिटे लेत राम नाम पाप कटे दुख मिटे लेत राम नाम भव समुद्र सुखद नाव भव समुद्र सुखद नाव एक राम नाम प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 महादेव सतत जपत महादेव सतत जपत दिव्य राम नाम काशी मरत मुक्त करत कहत राम नाम माता पिता बंधु सखा माता पिता बंधु सखा सब ही राम नाम श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 माता पिता बंधु सखा सब ही राम नाम भक्त जनन जीवन धन भक्त जनन जीवन धन एक राम नाम प्रेम मुदित मन से कहो राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम राम राम
कृष्ण कृष्ण का हे ना बोले।
Okay. Sorry. Okay, I'll start from here.
कृष्ण कृष्ण का हे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण का हे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। व्याकुल मन जब इत उत डोले। व्याकुल मन जब इत उत डोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। काहे ना काहे ना काहे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। व्याकुल मन जब इत उत डोले। 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले। धीरज जावे पग भर मावे। धीरज जावे पग भर मावे। धीरज जावे पग भर मावे। निज मन ही निज तन को खावे। निज मन ही निज तन को खावे। निज मन ही निज तन को खावे। श्याम शरण में श्याम शरण में श्याम शरण में श्याम शरण में श्याम मनवा होवे कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले इत उत की रसना हम छोड़े 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 कृष्ण चरण को मुख अब मोड़े 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 नारायण हरि मन पट खोले कृष्ण कृष्ण काहे ना बोले 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 काहे ना बोले काहे ना बोले
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद अर्चना. Jogesh, are you there? All right, so let us start. Oh, welcome Swamiji. Welcome everybody. Yeah, so we'll start the webinar today. And before we start, most of you know no need for introduction for Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, but I will just give a brief one so that this is just as a formality. Swami Sarvapriyanandaji is the current resident Swami and head of the Vedanta Society of New York, a position he has been serving since 2017. He was an Acharya for the monastic probationers training in Belur Math and has served in various capacities in the educational institutions under Ramakrishna Mission in India. Prior to being in New York, he was the assistant minister of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. He was also a inaugural fellow for the year 2019 and 20 at Harvard University. His discourses on Vedanta in a much simplified manner has benefited many of us in many ways. We are fortunate to hear today from Swamiji. And before we really start the webinar today, I just want to say a few house rules. We request you to kindly not ask any questions during the talk, and feel free to type your questions in the chat box, and our volunteers will collect them and we'll ask your questions to Swamiji at the end of the session. And you are requested to kindly keep your microphone in mute, and we also requested to keep your camera kindly on. And with that, may I request Swamiji to start.
Namaskar, and thank you, Manoj Babu. Namaskars to all the others present here. I see many familiar faces and some new ones. So welcome to all of you. The very beautiful bhajan which we just heard, I was listening carefully. Krishna, Krishna kahe na bole, ita uta ki rasana hum chode, Krishna charana ko mukha mode. Now, this itself, whatever I want to say in the talk today has already been said here. See, the subject today is the sadhan chatushtay, the fourfold practices which are necessary as a foundation for Vedanta. but the spirit of that was already there in the bhajan. 1 second. So the spirit of that was already there in the bhajan, because the bhajan said that why is it, oh, there's a question, how long will the class be? Don't worry, it won't be too long. I'll speak for about maybe 40 minutes or so, and then we can have Q&A. So yeah, so we'll try to wrap it up within the hour, I think. The spirit of the bhajan was that why do we not take the name of Krishna? Why is it so difficult to keep our minds on God? That is the highest purpose of life. We are all spiritual seekers here. So we should be able to keep our minds on God, but we are not able to do that. Why not? Then the next line, Ito utaki rasana ham chhode. If I do not give up these endless distractions in life, where my mind continuously flows outwards, if I do not put a restraint on that and deliberately, consciously turn my attention to Krishna. So that is the spirit of the bhajan. Krishna charan ko mukha ham more. So these two go together. Giving up this endless distraction in the world, turning away from it, and turning towards Krishna. So that is the essence. That's the spirit. Whatever I'm going to say today has already been said there. Turning away from worldliness, not from the world, but worldliness, and from materialism, turning from that to a spiritual reality. You can do it as a Krishna Bhakta, you can do it as Sri Jagannath Bhakta, Rama Bhakta, a devotee of God in any form, or as a seeker of self-knowledge in the path of Advaita Vedanta. What I'm going to talk about, the Sadhan Chatushtaya, these are the fourfold practices which are foundational. Any text on Advaita Vedanta, when you enter that, first the teacher will tell you about these. So we should really start with that. I usually start with the end, Brahma Jnana. What is Brahman? How do I realize myself as Brahman? But that's the end. The beginning is the fourfold practices. And any textbook on Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, will give you these fourfold practices. I'm going to use this one today. It is a very well-known entry-level book to Advaita Vedanta. It's called Vedanta Sara. It was written by Sadananda Yogindra. This is a translation by Swami Nikhilananda. It was written about 600 years ago. And ever since, it has become like a book. If you want to study Advaita Vedanta in a classical way, traditional way, you start with this book. There's another book, Tattva Bodha, which is actually easier than this. Now, almost at the beginning of this book, we find the fourfold practices. So what I'm going to do is, I'll read out the text from this book, which is very short, very brief, explain it a little bit, and then we will take up the question answers. So that's going to be our agenda today. That's what we're going to do now. Here in this book, the whole purpose is to train our attention to focus on God realization. That's it. And the importance of these practices, one Advaita teacher said that these fourfold practices, if we have them to a degree of some excellence, then all the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, they will make sense. Not only make sense, we'll be able to realize that they will become a living reality in our lives. Otherwise, what will happen is, without these fourfold practices, which we are going to talk about today, without sufficient development of these fourfold practices, the teachings, if you listen carefully to the teachings of Vedanta again and again, you will understand. We will understand. It's not so difficult to understand. We will get it also. But at the end of it, we will come away while thinking that, well, I heard a very nice philosophy today, but my life has not changed. I have not got the benefit. After all, the goal is moksha. After all the goal is transcendence of suffering. Dukkha nivritti and ananda prapti. Transcendence of suffering and attainment of positive bliss of fulfillment. I have not transcended suffering. I'm not getting this deep, lasting bliss. This will be our complaint. And the answer is that the problem does not lie with the teachings of Advaita Vedanta. Problem does not lie with the knowledge itself, but problem lies with our initial preparation. So you will have to go back to those initial preparations. These fourfold practices we're going to talk about, we'll have to return to them again and again in our lives till they are of a certain level of excellence. Notice, I'm saying practices. Often these are seen as qualities. Either you have vivek, vairagya. People complain, I don't have vairagya, as if it's something, either you have it or you don't have it. But it's not having it or not having it. It's a practice. It's something that can be developed and should be developed. It's something that we should work at. We should apply ourselves to. All right. Let me just dive straight into the subject. In this text, it is said in the same things are said in different ways in just about every Vedanta text. But here in this text, for those of you who have the book, it's text number 15. Sadhanani, the practices, sadhanas, practices. What are the practices? Nitya nitya vastu viveka, ihamutra artha phalabhoga viraga, shamadhi shatka sampatti, mumukshutwani. Fourfold practices. What are the fourfold practices? Viveka first. What is viveka? It used to be translated earlier as discrimination. So the Swamis, I think here, Swami Nikhilanji also has translated as discrimination. Yes, discrimination between things permanent and transient. The problem with using discrimination nowadays, discrimination is a bad word. So what are you doing? I'm practicing discrimination. No, you should not discriminate. So I think a better translation would be discernment. Discernment. Discrimination is understood as to see the difference between two things. Discernment is even more, it's more neutral and doesn't have that odor of, discriminating against somebody or something. So discernment between what? Discernment, viveka, vivich in Sanskrit means prithak karane. That means to separate two things, not physically, in our understanding. In our understanding, when we look at the world, the eternal and the non-eternal, God and the world are both there, but they're mixed up. The ability to distinguish between the two. What we have in this world, there's a lot of it which is temporary, which comes and goes, which will never be permanent. And the ability to discriminate this between, or discern this from the eternal, from God, Atman, Brahman, whatever you call it, this is Viveka. We use this word in our Indian languages, not only in Sanskrit, in Odia, in Bengali, in Hindi. Vivek, we normally use it in the sense of conscience, right and wrong. Vivek means the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. Kota thik, kota bhul, to be able to separate the two, at least in our understanding. Here it is something deeper. It's more philosophical, that not only right and wrong, but also real and unreal, eternal and non-eternal. We will go deeper into that. So that's the first one. Second one is vairagya, a dispassion. Vairagya, a dispassion for the non-eternal, a seeking of the eternal, dispassion for the non-eternal. Exactly what she was singing. I think Archana was singing there, that Krishna, Krishna kahe na bole. Why do you not take the name of Krishna? Because we are not giving up the non-eternal. Ita uta rasana, the taste for this worldliness. So we have to give that up and then turn towards Krishna charana ko mukha more. So turn towards God. This is called vairagya. Sri Ramakrishna used to call it Kautale, Vishaya Virag, Ishware Anurag. So virag, a dispassion for the world, for Vishaya, and a love, a devotion, a pull towards God. This is vairagya. Vairagya is not just negative. There is implied in there a positive side, that there must be a pull towards something higher, not just a dispassion for the world. Third, he says, Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. There are 6. So there's a little bit of a trick here. In the third practice, 6 have been included, have been pushed into 6. So 6 practices have been pushed into the third one. Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, Shama, etc. The sixfold treasure. The sixfold treasure is included there. What is the sixfold treasure? We will see later. And the last one, Mumukshutvam, an intense desire for freedom. In bhakti, it would be an intense desire for God, or intense desire for moksha, freedom. So fourfold practices: Viveka, Vairagya, the sixfold treasures, Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, number 3, and number 4 is Mumukshutvam. Now, let us start. We'll just go through each of these. So nominally 4, but remember number 3 has 6 included in it. So if you count 1, 2 plus 6, that makes 8, and then last one, Mumukshutvam, the desire for freedom, 9. If you make a list, it will become 9, but conventionally, traditionally, fourfold practices, sadhana chatushtaya. Let's go into it. First one, and I think very important, is viveka. It starts here. What is viveka? So in this book, the definition is given: nitya nitya vastu vivekas tavat brahmaiva nityam vastu tato anyad akhilam anityam iti vivechanam. So what is viveka? It is vivechana. It is discernment. I'm not going to use discrimination. Discernment in the mind that everything in this world, akhilam anityam, everything in this world, everything in life is temporary, transient. Bhagavan Buddha's beautiful insight, powerful insight. Sarvam anityam. He says, anityam, anityam, sarvam anityam. Temporary, temporary, transient, transient. Everything is transient in this world. Not only everything is transient, but kshanikam, kshanikam, sarvam kshanikam. The Buddhist will say kshanika, momentary, momentary, everything is momentary. Not only momentary, empty. Shunyam, shunyam, sarvam shunyam. Everything is empty, it lacks any essence. And therefore, dukkham, dukkham, sarvam dukkham. Suffering, suffering, all is suffering. Or dissatisfactory. Somebody said, don't say suffering, because many people are not suffering continuously. But dissatisfied, everybody is dissatisfied. Nobody is fully content with their lot in life. So dissatisfactory, everything is dissatisfactory. Nothing is satisfying in this world. And that was Buddha's first noble truth. The Arjya Satya, we used to study 4 noble truths. So first noble truth is dukkha. And why dukkha? Because everything is empty. Why empty? Because everything is momentary. Why momentary? Because everything is non-eternal, transitory. This is the nature of everything in life. If you consider from eating a cookie, however delicious it is, it lasts for just a second, just 5 seconds, and the taste, and then it's gone. It will not be gone. You go to your tummy and it will add fat to it, and then you will have to do exercise for many hours to overcome that few seconds of enjoyment. Now, transitory. Somebody may ask, so do you want an eternal cookie? No, of course not. That would be crazy. Do you want that a cookie should last forever, for years and decades? That would be crazy. No. But the point is, the point is that all of these are eternal, all of these are transitory, non-eternal, anityam, by their very nature. The problem is we chase all of it and we want satisfaction from it. But none of the satisfaction is lasting. As the satisfaction comes and goes away, we want more of it. We want better varieties of cookies. We want different cookies. And if tomorrow I have diabetes and I cannot eat cookies, and then I will feel sorry for that. So this is the problem of impermanent enjoyments. Impermanent enjoyments, and impermanence is the big problem, because after all our efforts, whether it is a cookie, whether it is money, whether it is property, whether it is relationships, whether it is people in our lives, that's the great source of sorrow. Everybody goes away. Our grandparents and parents, they will grow old and they will pass away. Our children, your children will grow up and go away. Friends and relatives, they will come and pass through your life and go away again. None of it is permanent. All of this, and yet we chase it with the hope that it will give me some lasting satisfaction. If it gave, it would be worth it, but it does not give. After some time, very quickly, that satisfaction also goes away, and then we want to repeat that. So not only is the satisfaction impermanent, we are caught in this endless treadmill of trying to get more satisfaction, more pleasure, more happiness, not happening. But also, second problem is that it is dissatisfying. If things in the world really gave the amount of satisfaction that is promised, if you see advertisement, everybody's so happy, so eating a cookie, everybody's laughing, jumping with joy. One of our Swamijis used to say very humorously, if you see especially in America, somebody eating cereals and jam as if some great party is going on, and he would say, no food in the world is so amazing that you will be like as if you're thrilled out of your life for eating that food. Nothing is so amazing, so giving so much happiness. No. So it is things in the world, they promise much more happiness than they actually give. And it is called the hedonist trap. The hedonist trap is the things in the world will give me happiness, property and relationships and money and education and awards and recognition. They do give a little bit of happiness, but inconstant and not as per expectations. After putting a lot of effort into something, getting something in our life, money, a degree, a job, a relationship, you find very soon it's not as great as you thought it was. And now the desire for satisfaction still remains, and we try to look for something else. So tripti is not there, fulfillment is not there by whatever we do. And it creates a taste, a vasana. A vasana is a kind of addiction, creates an addiction in us. Very soon we become slaves to desire. See, there's serious problems. First, biggest problem, we are pursuing it throughout our lives, money, relationships, awards, whatever it is, property, but it's not giving us anything constant. That's the biggest problem. Second, whatever it is giving us also is not really satisfying. Very soon we again have that trishna, that desire. And third, it creates a kind of addiction. I want more and more of it, different varieties of, from cookie to relationships to power, achievement, praise, Facebook likes, and whatnot. So all of this is a kind of addiction. All these are the problems. Why? Sarvam akhilam anityam. This understanding should come. But only if this understanding comes, depression will come. People will sometimes become depressed, very sensitive people. I was reading Sylvia Plath. She's one of the greatest poets that America produced. Young lady, she committed suicide. But if you read her poetry, you can clearly see why she committed suicide. Very sensitive soul, and she understands the nature of the world. And then depression comes. Is there anything that will give eternal joy, that will give deep and lasting satisfaction to the heart, that will give us freedom, not addiction? Is there anything like that? Yes. This is where religion, spirituality comes in and promises. There is something called God. There is something called Sri Jagannath, Krishna, Rama, whatever you call, the Divine Mother, something called the Atman, Brahman. Some spiritual reality is there, which if you attain it, it will give you lasting joy, peace. Proof, making a big claim, Swamiji. What is the proof that I will get this lasting joy and peace? Well, look at the lives of the saints, the lives of the Mahapurushas, those who are enlightened in your own understanding, in your own tradition. When you look at their lives, we feel inspired that it is possible to get this peace. They have got it, and they tell us we can get it. The Shastras, the Gita, Upanishad, they all tell us that this joy is available to us. We can get this joy in our life. So this is Viveka. Brahmaiva nityam vastu. Brahman is the eternal reality. And tato anyat, other than that, whatever appears as samsara is what appears as this material universe of objects and people. It is impermanent. This understanding. How will I get this understanding? First of all, through maturity in life. So generally Vedanta, this higher philosophy, higher bhakti, the jnana, these are not for beginners. One requires a little bit of maturity in life, and then one begins to see the truth of what is mentioned here, that it just matches our experience of life. So first of all, maturity, but then we must read the scriptures or listen to the teachings of the Upanishads, Gita, Bhagavata. Listen to it. Bhakti teachings, Jnana teachings, Yoga teachings, listen to it. And then practice a little bit ourselves. We'll begin to see here is something deep and lasting. And what I was chasing so far, nothing wrong in it, but it will not give me lasting peace or joy. So this understanding will come into us. This understanding is called Viveka. It is the beginning of our spiritual quest. So once one has that understanding, without this, what will happen is we can listen to classes, we can read books, and I can say, oh, I've read the Gita, I've read Vivekananda. It's nice. But what are you doing? I'm carrying on as it is. So no change will come. But we'll be inspired to change and follow this path in whichever tradition, once Viveka comes. Then what will be the next thing after Viveka? Vairagya. Vairagya. What is Vairagya? Number 17, it says, the next text. Aihikanam srak chandana vanitadi vishaya bhoganam karmajanyataya anityatvad amushmikanam api amritadi vishaya bhoganam anityataya tebhyo nitaram viratihi ihamutrartha phalo bhoga viragaha. It's a long sentence, but basically what it means is, whatever we find pleasurable and enjoyable. So he gives a rather naive list. This person lived 600 years ago. He did not live in USA in 21st century on Manhattan. So Shak Chandana, like garlands. So here garlands are not popular, but if you go to Broadway and all, Tiffany and all, the same psychology is still the same. Golden ornaments and gems and all. So anyway, garlands. Chandana. Chandana is a sandal paste. So it's a comfortable thing, perfume. And again, one might laugh. What is this garland and chandana? But what kind of luxury it is? Nothing at all. But it's the same psychology. You will see the very expensive perfume shops if you walk down Broadway, just here, a few minutes if you walk down, clothing shops, perfume shops, jewelry shops, same psychology. Thousands of years it is continuing. Vanita literally means woman. Remember, this was a text for monks, but basically it means the physical enjoyment or even the enjoyment of in the presence of the opposite gender, opposite sex. So men and women for each other. All these different kinds of enjoyment which people pursue in life, they are anitya, they are impermanent, they are not satisfying, and they create an addiction. They are karma, he says, karma janyataya. Why is that are they so defective? Because logically they are all born of our past karma. Why are we getting all these enjoyments? Why am I rich and I've got so many pleasures and so much success in life? Everything is going well in life because you are you have punya karma. You are punyavan. You have done punya karma in your past, and the result of that punya karma is the pleasures that you are enjoying now. But we'll say so. But karma is always limited. Whatever you have done, however much good you have done, it's also limited. And whatever is limited will give limited results. So limited good karma in the past will give limited good results in the present. Limited means it will come to an end. Everything that we get, all the good stuff we get, the pleasure that we get from it will come to an end. It's the very structure of this universe, that things will come to an end. And he says, Amushmikanam. Swargam. Now, this is something that modern people often don't believe in, but our forefathers, they believed in strongly. After death, you go to other lokas, other worlds. Depending on your punya karma here, you will go to Swarga. Swarga, a variety of heavens are there. Nothing spiritual about them. They are also like very fine places like Caribbean vacation or something like that. You go to Bahamas for vacation. So after death, you go to some kind of Swarga. There are multiple such Swargas. And depending upon the amount of credit you have, good karma, you will go there. What do you do there? So for us, it sounds very boring. They go there and drink Amrita and watch the dance of Apsaras. So it sounds like a very crude kind of enjoyment, basically a place of enjoyment. He says, Anitya, those are also Anitya. That will also come to an end. Whatever you get in this world, in this life, or next life, or after death. So Iha and Amutra means there, here and there. All are impermanent. Tebhyo nitaram virati. A strong, clear conviction and a practice of staying clear of all of that. Everything in the world is good. Is there a place for karma, for spiritual development, for development of character, for serving others? That's great. But if I think that any of these things in this world are going to give me lasting happiness, well, I'm going to be disappointed. I'll learn this lesson in the long run. This is vairagya, a dispassion. Now remember, this vairagya does not mean you will become Babaji like me and go and sit in an ashram or in the Himalayas. You may or you may not. But internally, I always say, do you have to become a monk to become a Vedantin? No. Internally, you have to become a monk. That maturity must come, that the world cannot give me deep and lasting satisfaction. I must look towards spiritual life for deep and lasting satisfaction, not towards the world. This is Vairagya. I quoted Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Sikothale, Vishaya Virag, Ishwarya Anurag. Dispassion for worldly objects or otherworldly objects, whether it is Coca-Cola here or Amrita in heaven, Vairagya for that. That it is not something that's going to give me any deep, lasting satisfaction. And Ishwarya Anurag, positive. Otherwise, it will become like you become suicidal, you become unhappy, depressed. That nothing is good. But there is something good. There is something worthwhile. Bhakti is worthwhile. Jnana is worthwhile. Seva is worthwhile. Yoga is worthwhile. This is worthwhile. This is called Vairagya. Then comes the third one. In a spiritual journey, you need some money. For every journey, you need treasure, money. So a spiritual journey, sixfold treasure. Number 18. Shamadayastu Shama Dama Uparati Titiksha Samadhana Shraddhakhyaha. What is the sixfold treasure that one needs for spiritual journey? Is Shama. I'll explain. Mental quietude. We'll explain later. Dama, control of our physical organs, the body itself. Then it says Uparati, withdrawal from too much engagement, external engagement. Titiksha, spiritual toughness, spiritual fortitude. Then Samadhana, focus. Shraddha. Shraddha, we understand, a deep faith in the teachings of the scriptures and the Guru. Let us take up each one quickly. First one, Shamastavat Shamaha. Shamastavat Shavanadi Vatirikta Vishayebhyo Manaso Nigraha. Shama is controlling the mind and pulling it away from anything other than your spiritual pursuit. Shravanadi Vatirikta. In Vedanta, the method is Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. You listen to these teachings, study the Vedanta, reason about it, think about it, dwell on it, and meditate on it once you have understood it. Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Apart from these activities, restrain the mind from flowing outwards to too many things. So here in Manhattan, in New York, the slogan is the city that never sleeps. The city that never sleeps, is it busy day and night doing sadhana, spiritual practice? No. It's busy with the world. Day and night also busy with the world. If one is like that, then one cannot progress in spiritual life. So there must be control. Don't let the mind flow away into worldly thoughts, worldly feelings, dwelling on worldly things. But I have so many problems. Who will take care of that? God will take care of that. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that I will take care of all your. He says that whatever you need in life, I will give you, and whatever you have, I will protect. So what are the words he used? Yoga, Kshema, Vahamyaham. So I will carry to you whatever the seeker, you the seeker, if you dedicate yourself to me, if you dedicate yourself to spiritual life, I will take care of your worldly life. So will Krishna go and do my job? He may, but the thing is, that does not matter. You will do everything that is going on. You have a body, you have a mind, you have some capacity, time and energy. You will do it, but you are not invested in it. You're invested in spiritual life. That will be done by you as your karma yoga. So that is shamaha, control of the mind. Don't let it flow to worldliness. Then damaha. Damaha bahyendriyanam tadvyatirikta vishayebhyo nivartanam. Bahyendriya, our organs of action, organs of perception, to control them, pull them back from too much engagement with the world. Control of the mind, not control of the mind, control of the sense organs. What it means is the sense organs are little autonomous. They have some kind of kind of inertia, kind of autonomous intelligence to them. For example, I have decided I'm going to focus on my meditation, yoga, bhakti, seva, and nothing else. Nice party is there, your friends are calling you, come out, we'll go to celebrate in a nice restaurant. I want to taste that, so I will go there. Few hours of your time are gone, energy is gone. What's going on? You decided that you will focus on spiritual life. The tongue, it wants to taste that. So there is a kind of autonomous intelligence there. You have to make a deliberate attempt to control those. They will pull. The eyes want to see certain things. Hand wants to touch certain things. So those sense organs, they want to experience the world. That requires a deliberate control of the sense organs. See, it is nothing very difficult and nothing very new also. We have all done it. You are all people who are successful in your career, in your family. You have made these choices, this control of the sense organs in order to succeed. In order to succeed in academics, in order to succeed in a job, in order to succeed in raising a family, you need certain amount of sense control. You can't go out and party all day and all night and then expect to graduate summa cum laude from your university. You can't. That requires some sacrifice, some what is called in modern psychology postponing gratification. Postponing gratification. I want pleasure, I want satisfaction, but not now. Let me finish my job. Let me finish my assignment. Let me do this, follow my routine. Then I will get happiness. So that much control is required, and we have all done that. Wherever anybody who is successful in any sphere of life, even worldly sphere of life, they require some amount of this damaha, control. Then mind can be tricky. All of these are big subjects. For example, I want to focus on sadhana. Now suddenly there's an opportunity come up. I will go on a big trip to Himalayas. It's spiritual. Is it truly? Isn't it better to follow your routine, staying where you are and doing sadhana? This is a trick of the mind. I want to move around. I remember I was in the Himalayas and staying in a little hut in Gangotri. Then some sadhu was going to go to Gomukh and told me, come with me. And I did not want to, break my routine. I was following a good routine of meditation study there. So I said, no, it will take 2-3 days. I cannot give so much time. And that sadhu said, no, we'll go in the morning and come back in the evening. I know the special path through the mountains, which the pilgrims, Tirtha Yatri nahi jante hain. He told me, the sadhu, I will take you, just follow me. We just need a big stick. Early in the morning, I was getting ready. Okay, all right. If one day I can give to go to Gomukh, I will go up there and come back by night. So taking a big stick and going out. Another sadhu who is to live in the next hut near me, a very great Gyani, who's always immersed in Yoga Vasishta day and night. He looked at me, Kahan chale Mahatma ji? Where are you going, Mahatma ji? I said, I'm going today. I've decided to go to Gomukh. And this sadhu has told me he will take me by a special path, which normally the Tirtha Yatris do not know. Tirtha Yatris need 2 days to go and come back and stay overnight somewhere. So we will go today and now come back by nightfall. And then that sadhu told me, अरे पागल हो गए क्या महात्मा जी, वो कर पाएगा, आप नहीं कर पाएंगे, आपको टांग तोड़वाना है क्या? You will break your leg. That sadhu is used to it. He can go in the morning and come back. You will not be able to do that. And then he said something that still it struck me. He said, why are you going there? जो तीर्थ करने आए हैं उनको जाने दो. You are doing sadhana here. What will you? These are the words. He was actually a BITS Pilani engineer, and he had renounced the world. He was staying there as a sadhu till the end of his life. He stayed there. So he said in English, "What will you gain by seeing a dirty glacier?" Gomukh, I'm going to the source of Ganga. He says, "What will you gain by seeing a dirty glacier?" Jo hai, wo yahan hai. He pointed to that Yoga Vashishta which he was studying. Stay here. Focus on your sadhana. So I did not go. I put the stick down and I went back into my hut. Now, this is Damaha. Mind becomes restless and then the sense organs become restless. I want to go on a trip. And it's not wrong. It is Tirtha Yatra. What is wrong in it? So, this is Damaha. Then, Uparati, next step. Nivartitanam etesham tadvyatirikta vishayebhya uparamanam uparati athava vihitanam karmanam vidhina parityagaha. So uparati means, rati means enjoyment. Rati means enjoyment. Enjoyment in the senses. Uparati, withdrawal, pull back. Once the mind and senses are controlled to some extent, you've got your body mind under control, little discipline, then carefully extract yourself from unnecessary engagement with the world. Many people feel this. I don't want to go, but my friends and relatives, they say, you have to go to this party, this meeting, this marriage, this. Now, I understand. It's difficult for people in samsara because you cannot cut away all at once. Then you will become a social pariah, reject. So there you have to be wise. Do the minimum and stop. You can drop 80% of those social activities. It is more a weakness of our mind rather than others. What will happen is at first people will keep calling you, they may criticize you, talk about it, but very soon samsara forgets about you. They will move on. They will say, oh, aisa hi hai, same thing. Then they will go ahead with their programs. You drop it. And Swami Ashokanji in our Vedanta Society of Northern California in San Francisco, he used to say, soon your children will say, oh, mom is no fun anymore. She's not coming to parties or these picnics. And I say, good riddance to bad rubbish. So all unnecessary activities, you see, is because you have got something high in your life. This is called uparati, pulling back from unnecessary engagement with the world. You need time and energy for spiritual practice. Now, most of it is difficult because you are in samsara, you have a whole network of connections with the world. That's why sannyasa was designed. So sannyasa is an artificial life where you carefully cut away from external world and focus on spiritual practice. This is basically uparati. Sannyasa, the whole idea of sannyasa is uparamanam, that word which is used, uparati. And therefore, second definition of uparati. What's the first definition? Pull back from activities not related to spiritual life, which suck up your time and energy. Or, he says, athava, or vihitanam karmanam vidhina parityagaha. This is code language. What it literally means is that all the prescribed duties, you renounce them in a formal way, vidhina, by formal Vedic manner. What it means is you take sannyasa. That the prescribed duties means your samsara, husband, wife, parents, job, children, grandchildren. One exit from all of that is formal sannyasa. So it has to be done formally because these duties are not bad. These duties are helpful for our character development. But if you want to give it all up for God realization, that also Hinduism permits. Sanatana Dharma permits it. And there is a special ritual in the Vedas called this Viraja Homa. Viraja Homa is if you perform that, you become a sannyasi and you are formally exempted from all these duties, only for the sake of God realization, not for anything else. So that is another meaning of uparati, actually becoming a monk formally. Then you actually become Swamiji, Babaji, or whatever, and you are exempted from most of these activities. Then number 20, the next one, titiksha. Titiksha, shitoshnadi dvanda sahishnuta. It says fortitude, putting up with difficulties. See, the world will continue to throw difficulties at you. Your body and mind will continue to throw difficulties at you. People may misbehave. There may be demands from the world. Sometimes it may be too hot, too cold. There may be natural disasters. There may be health problems. The determination that I will stick to my spiritual practice, I will stick to my Vedantic inquiry in spite of the ups and downs of the world, that is called titiksha. So that one must do. Do you not do that for earning money? Do you not do that for getting a degree? Do you not do that for raising a family? How much trouble you put up with? With a fraction of that trouble, you can realize God. So there's a beautiful definition of titiksha in the Vivek Chudamani, which is quoted here, Shankaracharya's own definition. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilapa rahitam satitiksha nigadyate. Putting up with all kinds of travails and afflictions and problems without reaction, internal reaction. Keep calm mind, do what is necessary. If you have a pain in the body, take a medicine, but don't worry too much about it and don't dwell on it too much. I knew a monk, young monk, very good person. He had stomach pain, continuous chronic stomach pain. So he tried this medicine, this doctor, that doctor. Then at one time I told him, see, the best we can get in the ashram, the doctor is taking care of you. Now, as giving you medicine and diet, you're doing everything. Now forget about it. Concentrate on God. Concentrate on your Ishta Devata, your japa, your dhyana, your seva, your Vedanta studies. And he did that. And ultimately, later he wrote a letter to me that the stomach pain also has gone away, and I'm thankful to you for your timely advice. Because whole time my mind was engaged, stomach pain, what to do, what not to do, worry, anxiety. No, let the pain come and go. I will put up with it, but my mind will be put on something higher. There's a beautiful saying, Milton. The mind in its own place can make a heaven of hell a hell of heaven. So the mind, the mind will turn a heaven into hell. You are here in the ashram, in a holy place, in holy company, in complete peace. You came here to attain peace. Now your mind is not at peace anymore. Why? Stomach pain, stomach pain, stomach pain. Mind is dwelling there on anything, any problem. Its mind is dwelling there. Even in a difficult circumstance, the mind dwells on the Lord. Sri Krishna Charana Mukhamode. If a mind dwells on the lotus feet of Krishna, you can turn a hell into heaven. So depending on what the mind dwells on and how much it dwells on that, it will affect your quality of life. So that's an interesting secret to learn. Titiksha. Then samadhana. You can see all of these are finely different graded progressions of the same thing. Pull your mind back from worldliness, focus it on God. Samadhana. What is samadhana? Nigritasya manasaha shravanadau tad anaguna vishayecha samadhi. Focusing the mind. Now you are withdrawn from worldly activities. You have got time and energy. Mind is free to some extent. Focus it on God. Make a deliberate attempt to focus in meditation, in japa, in Vedantic study, in scriptural class. Focus. This is the goal of my life. I will focus there. Then Shraddha. Shraddha is Guru Upadeshta Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasa. What the Guru has taught, what the scriptures have taught, Upanishad, Gita, Bhagavata, they have taught, have deep faith in that. Why faith in that? That will sustain our spiritual life. At this point, I may not understand. At this point, I may not realize. But if I hold on to it, I will one day understand. I will one day realize it. Then the last one is Mumukshutvam Mokshecha, intense desire to be free. Sri Ramakrishna was once asked, of all these practices, which is the most, tell one important thing. But if you have it, you will get God realization. If you don't have it, you will not get God realization. He said Vyakulata. Vyakulata, intense desire for freedom, for God realization. Sri Ramakrishna's own life, you see the demonstration. He would weep and pray to Ma Kali, Dakshineshwar temple, that I want to have darshan of Ma Kali. Other sadhakas have seen you. Why can't I see you? And at the end of the day, he would wail and cry and throw himself on the bank of the Ganga and rub his face in the sand. And another day is gone. The sun is sinking. Evening is coming. I still have not got the vision of mother, of Ma. Now, this is Vyakulata. So this is, in Vedantic terms, mumukshutvam, intense desire for freedom from samsara. It is possible. Let me try. So this is the fourfold practices. First, viveka. God alone is eternal, worthwhile, fulfilling. Samsara is non-eternal, disappointing, and creating addiction, traps me. Then vairagya, a dispassion for samsara. All the remaining in the middle of samsara. Remember, Krishna is teaching Arjuna, both are householders. Krishna is the householder and Arjuna is householder. And after teaching Gita also, he remains householder. Arjuna wanted to run away. Krishna told him, you stay here in the midst of samsara. And ghora samsara, because it is a yuddha kshetra, battlefield. In the midst of that, you can be spiritual. But vairagya must be there. A dispassion for this and holding on to God. Third, the 6 treasures. These are basically disciplines for withdrawing from the world and focusing on spiritual life. Shamaha, calmness of the mind. Withdraw from worldly thought, worldly anxieties and cares, focus on God, on spiritual life. Damaha, physical control of the 5 sense organs and 5 organs of action. They want to rush out into the world and engage with the world. We must deliberately pull back. Then you will get, then the next one will be uparati. That you will do when you withdraw from too much worldly activities, engagements. This meeting, that party, it's not necessary for your job, not at all necessary in your life. It's just, you can do it or you need not do it, then don't do it. So uparati. Then there is titiksha. Titiksha is a spiritual toughness, that I will hold on to spiritual life in spite of multiple problems. It's too hot, too cold, little illness is there, little cold has come, COVID has come. All right, I will power through it. Just as I have done for samsara, for getting a degree, for getting a job, building my career, raising a family, so much trouble I've put up with. Let me use some of that to for spiritual life. Titiksha. Now with these things, Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, you will get little space to maneuver, little freedom of mind and time and energy. Samadhana. Use it. Focus on the Gita study or Bhagavad study or Upanishads. You focus it on japa and dhyana, on retreat in spiritual life from the world. Sri Ramakrishna was to be asked, Upay Amadar Upay ki. So Grihastha devotees would come and say, Amara Upay kon habo. And Sri Ramakrishna would say to them, Prarthana, Nirjane Bas, Sadhu Sangha. You pray to God. Pray in different ways. It could be japa, it could be meditation, whatever, some kind of mental focus on God. Nirjane Vas. You must withdraw a little bit from too much engagement with samsara. It could be in a retreat. In this country, there are nice retreats. There are ashrams, there are forest retreats, very nicely arranged and safe. You can go away for 3 days. You can go away for a week. Don't overdo it, short time. And then sadhu sangha. Sangha like this, even if you cannot get in your neighborhood some Mahatma sitting there, but virtually at least. So that practice must be there. Samadhana, focus. And then Shraddha, a faith in the teachings. This will hold on that I will get it. Others have got it. I will also get the benefit of this. Intense desire for freedom. That Vyakulata is essential. Now, one question may be there in the mind, how will I get Vyakulata? I don't feel it. So here I will share one secret with you about these fourfold practices and then conclude and take the questions. So what is the secret? When we look at this list, it seems formidable. First of all, know that we all have it to some extent. Otherwise, why on a weekend, nice Saturday morning, you could have spent some time relaxing? Why are you listening to a Vedanta talk? It is because we all have a spiritual inquiry in our mind. Some viveka is there. Then you have, economics, they say opportunity cost. To stay for 1.5 hours on this program, you are giving up some other thing you may be doing. You could work in the garden, you could talk to your relatives, spend time on social media. Those you have given up. That's the opportunity cost for coming here. That's vairagya. So we have vivek vairagya, but it has to be increased. It has to be pushed up to more greater intensity. How will you do that? The secret is this. These four are causally linked. These four are causally linked. Causally linked means the one will depend on the earlier one. So each depends on the earlier one in that link. So somebody might say, I don't have vairagya. I want spiritual life, but Swamiji, I'm so attached to my grandchildren. Then what do I do? How will I increase? Do I have to be detached from them? No, don't do that. Go back to the one before vairagya. What was there before vairagya? Viveka. Strengthen that one. Read the scriptures, listen to Vedanta talks, think deeply about samsara. Your viveka will become, it will burn stronger. Then you will see vairagya will become easier. Say, I have vivek vairagya, but my control over body mind is not good. So control over body mind, that samadhi shat sampati is not good, means you go back to the earlier one. Strengthen vairagya, control of the mind and senses will become easy. If vairagya is weak, then controlling the mind and senses will not be easy. Every now and then the senses and the mind will flow outwards to the world. So the secret is this. Each one depends on the earlier ones. You say Vyakulata, I don't have Vyakulata. I'm interested in spiritual life, but interest is not intense interest. Then what do? Strengthen the sixfold treasure. Try to control the mind, control the senses, withdraw from too much activity in the world, focus on my spiritual practices, slowly liking and eagerness for spiritual life will come into my life. So this is the secret. Each is causally connected. If you have a problem with any one of them, don't struggle there. Go back to the earlier ones and strengthen it. You will see this will improve. The later one will improve. Very good. I think I'm done, and we can take up questions. I think we'll first take up the question of the person who's raised the hand.
Swamiji, I believe
yes, Manoj Babu, please take over.
It's okay. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for this very nice talk. Siti, if you have raised hand for a question, you can ask right now, or else I believe it's by mistake you click that raise hand button. That's what it looks like.
Okay.
We will just ask. Before I actually ask our viewers question, I will just ask a very simple question from my own side, Swamiji. This has not only bothered me, and it has probably bothered many of our friends in this group also. You mentioned in the course of your talk about while we are talking about vairagya, this attachment towards objects, people, and you specifically mentioned praise and Facebook likes. And this social media, which is very dominant these days, this Facebook likes and things like Facebook like are really dominating life for people. What exactly would be your advice?
True, and it has increased, and not so much young people. Young people are anyway addicted to it, but I'm seeing middle-aged people and elderly people. And I saw in India, so when I went a few months ago, so large numbers of, this is some change I'm seeing after 4 or 5 years. It was there earlier, but it has increased in a quantum jump. People are continuously on their phones, and it's not that they are browsing or anything, they're posting on social media. It's a form of it's very addictive. So large numbers of people rushing wherever I go. Swamiji, Swamiji, Swamiji. I thought, oh, they're coming to ask me Vedanta question, not Vedanta question, Swamiji, selfie. So selfie is the demand. Why? Because it will immediately be posted on social media, and then you'll see people are giving likes or some response. Now, what is the attraction there? The attraction is, it seems that there's some deep neuropsychology there, that when you get a response from other people, one like or one question or one word of appreciation, there's actually some discharge of dopamine or something like that in the brain, and you feel better, a little small feeling of happiness, and these are linked. And I was reading that there are engineers, many of you are there actually in Silicon Valley. So there are groups of engineers in these social media platforms who are working to make it more and more addictive. You know, there's a study, it's actually a fact that 1950s cigarette companies, they hired doctors, physiologists to engineer the cigarettes, to the nicotine brand, to make it as addictive as possible, so that people will get addicted to cigarette. At that time, then cigarette was controlled. But exactly the same thing is happening on a more sukshma, subtle level, to make this technology as addictive as possible, so that large numbers of people will keep using these. And we know what is the advantage for them. That in social media companies, the more you pay attention to it, it's called the attention economy. The more we pay attention to it, the more money they earn through, advertisements and all. It's all about money at that, on their end. But on our end, our attention is being pulled away. The essential thing in spiritual life is attention, and that attention is being pulled away by these social media. I would suggest that minimize or drop out of it. It is useless. We all, especially those who are here, we all are pre-social media generation. We lived most of our life without any problem, without the social media. So if you can use it safely without being dominated by it, use it to that extent. Otherwise, just drop it. And at first you may suffer a little withdrawal symptom, but you fill it up with spiritual life, with study, with bhajans, with there's so much content there, hearing music, with meditation, with actual activity, engagement with doing things for in your local temple or in the community. That is much better than engagement through social media.
I believe, so one of the 6 Satsampati Sama, which is control of the mind, this one exactly goes against that one.
Yes.
Add that, sir.
Yes. Yeah. And Uparati, withdrawal from too much engagement with the world. But the problem is now not only we're engaged with the world, engagement with the world is not bad actually. What is worse is this engagement with the virtual world. You are actually not meeting people. You're actually not interacting with anybody. It is you're interacting with a virtual environment, and that takes away the same amount of time without giving many of the benefits of actual interaction with the world. So a little bit you have to do. This is the world. You cannot throw away your smartphone, and your children, grandchildren are linked to you by this, but one must become very aware of it. And also what is happening to young children, that also one must become aware of. We are safe to a certain extent because we have seen a life before this, but we have no idea what is happening to the next generation who are growing up in the midst. Their new brains, new nervous systems are forming connections with a virtual world. So that addiction may be very difficult to break. Therefore, we have to be a little careful. I don't know if any study has been done like this, but I just think that there are in this country especially serious problems with drugs. Mothers who become addicted and give birth to babies, and there are many such unfortunate cases. The babies are addicted from birth, which is terrible, to drugs. Now, this is not as dangerous as a drug or as acute. This is more of a chronic problem. The social media addiction is more of a chronic problem. Because it's a chronic problem. If it was a drug problem, then the Drug Enforcement Agency would go and shut down the social media companies in Silicon Valley. But it's not like that. It's a more mild problem, and therefore it escapes. It flies under the radar. It escapes our attention. But it eats away time. It eats away energy and diverts our attention continuously.
So true, Swamiji. So problem going from Sthula Vastu to Sukshma attack.
Sukshma, yeah, subtle. And subtle level is always more powerful than Sthula level.
Dangerous. Swamiji, there's a question from Nalini. Though you have explained many times that the ultimate absolute formless God, Brahman, cannot be objectified as it is not an object, and it is the subject of everything that one can think of. Still, many times the question arises in mind, the curiosity to understand Brahman by objectifying it. Anything we can experience, even through siddhis, kundalini, or whatsoever, is ultimately an experience and hence an object. So how to understand Brahman with her limited body-mind complex?
Right. it's a good point. The second sentence, last but one sentence, that any experiences we have through Kundalini awakening, whatever it is, there's an object. Now, in every experience, there is an objective component. Not that the experience is entirely objective. So, for example, I am looking at this book. This book is objective. And my vision of the book, that I am seeing a book, internally it's there, but it has one objective component. I am seeing the book. In my thought, it's a thought about a book. The thought is entirely internal, but that the book is there, it's a representative of an object. It's still an object. Even a thought is an object because I'm aware of it. Anything that you are aware of is an object. But you yourself, in your real nature, you are not an object. To you, everything else is an object. And you shine as consciousness and you make possible all experiences. So whatever experience you're having an experience of an object, but you are not an object. So an experience is a combination of two things. You, the non-objective, pure subject, consciousness, shining upon an object. What will be the object? First, it will be a thought, a little more outwards sensory activity, little outwards an external object. So the way to do this, the straight answer to the question is not to try to understand some Brahman, some Atman, some consciousness is there, some existence, Satchidananda is there. No, no, no. I am this Satchidananda. This is the only way of understanding this. Another way, important, equally important, is to see that I am not anything other than Satchidananda. So this identification I have with the body, that I am this body, or the mind and personality, I am this Sarvapriyananda personality. These are objects. Sthula object, subtle object. I am not these. This clarity which comes through Vedanta Vichara, the Neti Vichara. These are Drishya, these are Anitya, these are Parichinna. I'm not going through the details, but these objects, they are not me. This clarity is a way of understanding that I'm pure consciousness. You cannot directly understand I'm pure consciousness, but you can understand by eliminating the wrong understanding that I am body-mind. That error can be eliminated through Vedanta Vichara. So there are two sides to it. How do you understand Brahman, which cannot be objectified? You can understand it as Aham Brahmasmi. But that Aham will not be the ego there. Second, you can understand it in the negative way, by removing the misunderstanding, removing the misidentification with body-mind. You don't have to anew identify yourself with the pure consciousness, because you already are that. So subtle and good question.
Thank you, Swamiji. I see Mr. Rani Acharya has raised a hand. If you can ask your question, be brief while asking the question, please.
Yes. Namaskar, Swamiji.
Namaskar.
So I have a very basic question. Actually, I have two basic questions. One is it sadhana or is it sadhana, meaning equipment, or is it the practice? Then the second question is, I'm studying now Digdrishya Viveka at Chinmay Mission. So is that textbook also part of this?
Yes. So it is sadhana chatushtaya. These are methodologies, instruments which will take you to the goal. What is sadhan? Sadhya. Sadhya means goal. What is your goal? God realization, Brahma Jnana, which will lead to moksha. So that is our goal. How do you do that? How do you go there? Whatever helps you to go there is sadhan. We use that word sadhan in Odia also. I want to go from here to the temple. So what sadhan will you use? You will use the car or a cab or something. There's a sadhan. You want to cross the Ganga. So what is your sadhan? The boat. One unique thing about sadhan is it will take you to its capacity. It will take you to the other side of the Ganga, from this side to that side. Then sadhan means you have to let it go at one point. Then another sadhan may be useful. And the sadhan is never the goal. The goal is something that the sadhan takes you towards. So these are all sadhan. You become a sadhika when you use these. Now, Drigdrishya Viveka is also obviously part of the Advaita Vedanta tradition. But I don't know if you want to ask that. The question is that would be that then these practices are not given in Drigdrishya Viveka. Drigdrishya Viveka just starts off straight away by Rupam, Drishyam, Lochanam, Drik, straight away. It drops the bombshell right at the beginning. The distinction between Atma and Atma. Yes. So Drigdrishya Viveka is a short and powerful text which goes to the heart of the matter. So there are a few texts like this, Prakarana Granthas, which omit these preliminaries. But most of the Prakarana Granthas will spend some time on the preliminaries. Vivek Chudamani will do that, says Vedanta Sar will do that, and Aparoksha Anubhuti will do that. But Drigdrishya Vivek does not do that. You're right. It jumps right directly into Atma and Atma Viveka.
Okay, thank you.
There is a question from one of the listeners, Princeton. Namaste and respectful pranam. Many things said so far to emphasize the capacity of the Jivatma to control their actions, with emphasis on engaging in spiritual activity for the ultimate benefit of the self. But Krishna concludes in Gita by saying, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masutah. Surrender to him alone. This seems to place emphasis on Bhagavan as the controller who has infinite capacity as opposed to our finite capacity. Would you please comment on this? Bhagavan
Absolutely.
Or we control?
Because you're right. Because see, what I was speaking about was from a particular tradition, which is an Advaita Vedanta tradition, so which lays emphasis on self-inquiry. But the Bhakti tradition will lay emphasis on God. So take the help of God. If you have faith in God and hold on to God, God will do whatever is needful. God will do that to you. Will give you bhakti, will give you jnana, moksha, whatever you need. God will give you. So that is also one path, definitely, and that's a powerful way. This is a path of self-inquiry, jnana, the Advaita Vedanta path. The two paradigms are different. Another way of understanding this would be, in the Mahavakya and the Upanishads, Tattvamasi. You are that reality. So this is the basic idea of Advaita Vedanta. But in that also there are two sides, Tat and Tvam. Tat means Bhagavan, Brahman, and Tvam means you, the individual. Now you can do your sadhana based on you, the individual, or you can catch hold of Bhagavan, the Tat. So what you are suggesting is, why not catch hold of Bhagavan? Yes, you can do that. Then Bhagavan is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. It's much more powerful. Yes, only problem there will be that it requires great faith. See, you exist, you know that. There's no doubt about it. Nobody has to come and tell you that I exist or tell you that you exist. Our own personal existence is very clear to us. But Bhagavan's existence has to be taken on faith. Scripture is telling me, Guru is telling me. And if you have that kind of faith, and many do, you can proceed that way also. Or you can, if you want to start on this side, you can start with inquiry into the self. But anyway, I mean, there is nothing to be said to what you said, because it is straightforward. What Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, there can be different interpretations of that. One interpretation is this, is that, remember, he was talking to Arjuna, and it is there, the religion they understood mostly at that time was a Vedic ritualistic religion. And there always the fear at the back of their mind was, I have to do this yajna, this Vedic karma kanda. And here is Krishna telling me about yoga, about bhakti, and about jnana. What about my religious practices? And Krishna is saying, don't worry about that. You can safely give up all that if you take refuge in me, in Ishvara. You will not lose anything at all. And in fact, you will gain much more and much more easily and much more sweetly, because you have got bhakti to the Lord. So that might be the meaning of give up all the dharmas, means what you think is dharma, Vedic karma kanda and all of that, that you can give up. Krishna bhakti is much more powerful, is much more superior to merely ritualistic performance of Vedic karma kanda. That is one interpretation.
Swamiji, namaste. You said in the beginning that Advaita Vedanta is referring to a different paradigm than the Bhakti Vedanta tradition?
Yes, yes.
But these are both coming from the Vedanta Sutra, so I'm not seeing how they refer to it might be two different interpretations, but
Yes.
Vedanta Sutra itself is speaking of one paradigm, of the conclusion of Veda.
Yes.
So it seems
Now,
that the paradigm is a singular paradigm, but it's just some different perspective on what that is. But that perspective then shapes how we actually engage in sadhana and practice, and what the actual aim of that sadhana is. Like, so far I've heard more emphasis on renunciation.
Yes.
The common agreement is exploitation in material world is, we don't want that. Everyone, all Vedic schools agree on that, no doubt. We don't want exploitation in the Maya.
Excuse me, sir. I think your question have been already answered by Swamiji. We
Yeah,
can
let
discuss
me
more
just
on that later.
Yeah, but it was a good point. Let me just respond to that. What he's saying is right. Call it different paradigm or different interpretation. But you see, using the word paradigm or interpretation, using the word paradigm is a little better. Why? Otherwise, if you use interpretation and you say it leads to a singular conclusion, then the question will arise, which interpretation is superior or is correct and everything else is wrong. So one approach might be, my interpretation is this, and my school, my tradition interprets the Vedas in this way. And then what about all the other schools? Well, they are all wrong. Mine alone is right. That could be one option. And that was the option for many people for many centuries. But a wiser and better and wider way of looking at it is the same Vedanta Sutras, same Upanishads, same Bhagavad Gita has commentaries written by Adi Shankaracharya, by Sri Ramanujacharya, by Sri Madhvacharya, the Achintya Bhedabhed school. The ISKCON is following the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, which the core philosophy is the Achintya Bhedabhed of the Shada Goswamis. Then there is the Shuddhadvaita of Vallabhacharya. There is the Nimbarka Dvaita Advaita. So all these paradigms. Now, will I say these are all interpretations and one alone is right and all the others are wrong? Or should I say that all these interpretations in schools follow from commentaries on the same texts, and the texts themselves are so capacious that they can be interpreted in different ways depending on the different paradigm, and they all work. It may be that the one does not suit you, another one suits you. One is not your tradition, another one is your tradition. That's great. Sri Ramakrishna would say, Jato mat tato path. As many faiths, as many approaches as you have, so many paths to the divine. He would say that the pitha, the sweet preparation which you offer to Krishna, we make, you can eat it in this way, but it will taste equally sweet. You can eat it in this way, you can twist it around and eat it that way. It will taste equally sweet. So what I'm just saying is this: if you stick to that interpretation, that the Vedanta Sutra has one conclusion, and therefore it has to have one interpretation, then you run the risk of saying that all other interpretations are wrong. And that would be strange, because in every path you have had saints and holy people and elevated souls who are very spiritual. Otherwise, you'd have to say that there is no other saint except in my tradition. Everybody else is wrong. Everybody else is false. Everybody else is misled. That seems a little petty.
May I give one reply quickly, if that's okay?
Sure. That's not okay, actually. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Then
Let's
just
take the next question.
all right. We'll let the moderator take over.
Yes. There is a raised hand by Sudham Bhai. Sudham Bhai, you may ask your question, please.
Swamiji and Pranam. I know you. I have been listening to you, and we have known for a long time through Jnana Bhaina and all those things. But my question is a little bit maybe different, in the sense, whenever I do meditation, I try to, let's say, Sri Jagannath is my Ishtadevata. I do a Swarupa Saguna Brahma meditation, and slowly I try to go away from Saguna Brahma to Nirguna Brahma, like Daru Brahma. So whenever I do that, so I find my mind is wandering away. So because when I do Saguna Brahma, I really focus, I do go through the Rupa Dhyana and all those things, try to understand what it is. But ultimate, my goal is to go back to the Nirguna side. So my question is, any one of these today, sadhana chatushtaya, particularly the Bakulata or Saddha is maybe lacking. Why this Nirguna Brahma meditation is not very focused?
All right, the direct answer to that is you need not bother too much about the Nirguna Brahma meditation. Nirguna Brahma is a matter of inquiry and knowledge. You know, the word used is very, very evocative. Genya Brahma, Upasya Brahma. Genya Brahma means Brahman that has to be realized or understood using your intellect, using your study and reason upon it, and then you get it. That is Genya Brahma. And you realize, Aham Brahmasmi. Upasya Brahma, Brahman which is to be worshipped, that is Saguna Brahman. That you should not try to do vichara there. There, Sri Jagannath is my Ishta Devata. I have Sri Jagannath with all devotion in my heart. I first listen to Jagannath bhajans, maybe do a little bit of puja, sit quietly in meditation and focus exclusively on the form and the name of Sri Jagannath to the exclusion of everything else. That's it. Don't worry about going from there to Nirguna Brahman. That's my advice. There is a Nirguna Brahma Dhyana also. Panchadashi talks about it. But the primary path to Nirguna Brahman is self-inquiry. I am not the body, not the mind. In your own experience, you must realize, I am that Nirguna reality. That's the best way. To put it in brief, to your Ishta Devata, Sri Jagannatha, Upasana should be done. Meditation should be done as you are doing. As far as the Nirguna aspect is concerned, inquiry, the vichara should be done. As taught in the Upanishads, in Drigdrishya Vivek, Vedansar and all that.
In the one point I just want to make you made is Vishay Anuraga and Vishay Viraga, Ishwarya Anuraga. Is that the same thing? Like I was trying to practice that same thing.
Yes. The more we dissociate from the world, the more we have devotion to God. And more devotion we have got to God, the more dissociation is from the world. Don't worry too much about Vairagya. Sri Ramakrishna had a very interesting answer to this question of Vairagya. He said, "Jato puber dike jabe tato paschim pechone pore thakbe." Don't worry about pushing away the world. The more you move towards God, he says, more you move towards the east, the more the west remains behind. I hope he did not mean in that paradigm of east and west as we have now. He just, I think, move towards the east, automatically west is left behind just by your movement itself. The more you move towards God positively, holding on to God, the more worldliness will be automatically, it will drop off. You don't have to struggle with it so much.
Namaskar. Thank you. Manoj, please go ahead.
So I will take another question from the chat box now. This is from Radha Reddy. When we know that everything we do is not eternal and temporary, why should not we quit everything and become a monk and follow spirituality? If everyone does so, how is the material world going to operate? How do we deal with this guilt or dissatisfaction?
Yes. How will the material world operate if I become a monk? See, if everyone will become a monk, how will the material world operate? That is God's concern. Don't worry, everyone will not become a monk. It's impossible. And Ishvara, how the world will continue is Ishvara's duty. Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. Who does it? Ishvara does it. Bhagavan does it. So you need not worry. Worry about yourself. Don't worry, you take care of yourself. So yes. Now, why should I not become a monk? Yes, you can. Well, remember, the goal is not to become a monk or become a householder. The goal is God realization. There is a reason why Krishna told Arjuna to stay in that and do his duty in the Kurukshetra. And he says, Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Fight the battle of life and keep your mind on God. Both. He did not say only keep your mind on God. That place where God has put you is not against spirituality. That place, those people, that family, that job, this body, all of them can be helpful to God realization. The challenges that they throw forward to you, they can be helpful. Convert that same karma into karma yoga. It will help you towards God realization. That's what Krishna's advice was to Arjuna.
We'll take a question from a raised hand now. Akshay Ray, if you have.
Manoj bhai, that was my question actually.
Oh, it is.
I think you mixed up the name.
Okay. So then
Okay, I just want to say that I'm not discouraging you from becoming a monk.
Salam Swamiji.
Either you become a monk or you take it in small steps. Go to an ashram, stay there for 1 or 2 days, come back to your home, do both. That was the whole idea of vanaprastha and sannyasa, that as the duties of the world become lesser, don't keep on accumulating. So Vivekananda would say, neither seek nor avoid. What a good formula, difficult to follow. Neither seek nor avoid. Either we try to avoid worldly duties and run away from them, or we get bored, we want more and more engagement with the world. So don't do either of them. And when you have time and little freedom, use it to go away and to retreat. Go and stay in an ashram, do some service, and spend your time in the shrine, do meditation, do japa, do holy reading, and then come back again.
Thank you, Swamiji.
I remember when I went to the Himalayas, I remember that I told the Swamiji in charge, and I am going away. But then the Swamiji said, don't be like that. Wise person. He said, you go 1 month, 2 months, do japa, dhyana, study. And then when you feel your spiritual life intensity is going down, please come back. And I saw that is a wise thing. Ashram is good. Whether Ramakrishna Mission, ISKCON, whatever it is, ashram is meant for spiritual life. So it is not that if by staying in an ashram, duties are there, you have to interact with people, it is harming your spiritual life. Not at all. Similarly, if Grihastha ashram also can be converted into a place of spiritual practice, that's also good.
ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ଅଛି
ଆଜ୍ଞା କୁହନ୍ତୁ
ମୋ ନାମ ଭକ୍ତି ନିଷ୍କାମ ଶାନ୍ତ
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ନବଦୀପ ଧାମ ଚୈତନ୍ୟ ଶାଶ୍ୱତ ମଠରୁ କହୁଛି
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଯେ
ଆପଣ ଏଠି ଅଛନ୍ତି ପ୍ରିନ୍ସଟନରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି ନା ନବଦୀପରୁ କହୁଛନ୍ତି
ମୁଁ ନବଦୀପ ଅଛନ୍ତି ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ମେମ୍ବର ଆମର ପ୍ରିନ୍ସଟନ ଇଏର ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆପଣ ନବଦୀପରୁ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଅବିକା
ଆପଣ କୋଉଠି ଅଛନ୍ତି
ମୁଁ ନ୍ୟୁୟର୍କ ବେଦାନ୍ତ ସୋସାଇଟିରେ ଅଛି
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରିବାର ଥିଲା ଯେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଯୁକ୍ତ ବୈରାଗ୍ୟ ଶୁଣିଛନ୍ତି ଯୁକ୍ତ ବୈରାଗ୍ୟ
ନା ମୁଁ ଶୁଣିନି
ଯୁକ୍ତ ବୈରାଗ୍ୟର କଥା ଚୈତନ୍ୟ ମହାପ୍ରଭୁ has explained about the concept of yukta vairagya. See, there is 2 types of vairagya. One is suska vairagya, another is yukta vairagya. Suska vairagya means
I will interrupt you, sir. We are here to ask questions, and if you have to say some another discourse, we can take it another time. Thank you so much, and you may stay mute, please.
But let me, Manoj but he was making a nice point. I think, Swamiji, मुझे summarize कर दे. Yukta vairagya means it comes from bhakti, right? You are
no. Yukta vairagya means you have to renounce everything that is not concerned with the interest of the absolute.
Yes.
What absolute wants, only that much devotees are interested with.
Very beautiful. Bahut sundar.
He is not interested with. So there is yukta and suska. Suska means they are looking for some liberation.
Yes.
And Mahaprabhu has explained Kaivalya Narkayate, which is hellish, the liberation. So
yes.
Anyway, I think it's a beautiful intense discussion. But I just wanted to make a small
it's a beautiful idea, very beautiful idea, and it's very, very nourishing to the heart that this servitude of Krishna, that I am the Nitya Dasa of Bhagavan, of Sri Jagannath, of Sri Krishna. And so
Swami is our Acharya. He has told one sloka, Anna Vilasita Sunna Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukullena Krishnanusulanam Bhaktiruttama.
Yes.
Anna Vilas means that which is not concerned with the interest of the absolute. Those are all Anna Vilas.
Yes.
So thus which is free from Anna Vilas and free from karma and gyan, that is the Uttam Bhakti.
Right. And it's a very beautiful
that is Vairagya. Anna Vilas is the Vairagya. When free from Anna Vilas is the Vairagya.
It's a very beautiful concept, and actually much more easier to practice. That one is it's a very beautiful and something that sadhakas should listen carefully to that. It is something that will benefit our sadhana, what he just said.
Thank you. Anytime you come to India, we are organizing a conference, Science and Scientists. Artificial intelligence versus natural intelligence.
ठीक अच्छे आज्ञा ठीक
In
अच्छे
December
हमें
12th
टिके
and 13th.
प्रोग्रेस करिवा अपन टिके kindly mute
Yes.
रहंतु
Again,
we'll take a
yes.
question from one
Thank
last
you.
question from the raised hand Mr. Radha Reddy or
Yes.
I'm sorry if I can't see the face Radha Reddy if you kindly ask a question
Namaste,
please.
Swamiji. Thank you for your time this morning to enlighten us. My question to you is, as intellectuals, especially in this country, I feel and I see within me and people around me that there is more information in our heads than experience in our hearts. We don't take enough time to experience what we know. Because of that, there is so much disparity between what we know intellectually and what we know wisdom-wise, experientially. So there is sometimes a dissatisfaction, there is a guilt, and we tend to fancy ourselves in this search and just be satisfied being on the journey. And there are many times I feel like how sincere and how much integrity is there in my seeking? Is this a spiritual ego that I fancy myself just reading and reflecting and just being satisfied with it? Or do I take time to practice what I already know on a daily basis? And how do I go about it? If you could address this spiritual guilt or dissatisfaction I'm talking about, it would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you. That's important. That's an important question, actually. Am I serious in my spiritual quest, or is it just there's an English word, a dilettante, that I am dabbling in this and dabbling in that. That's where this for sadhana chatushtaya comes in. So without the sadhana chatushtaya, my interest in Vedanta is a curiosity. If some nice lecture is going on, I will sit and listen. It does not change my life, and ultimately I'm dissatisfied. What am I doing here? What is the point of all this? But if I have the sadhana chatushtaya, the sadhana chatushtaya goes directly to the heart. A strong vivek, a discernment, a clarity. God alone is real. The world is unreal or unimportant. God alone, I need to attain God. Dispassion for the world. When that happens, my spiritual quest becomes intensified. So the answer to your question is, focus on the sadhana chatushtaya. It will make our own spiritual quest more genuine, more focused, more real. But I want to add, listen to this carefully. This question you asked is also a trick of the mind. It is to make you stop doing spiritual practice or stop being interested in spirituality. Suppose I feel my spiritual quest is not serious. I am not making progress. I'm just listening to some lectures. Sometimes I'm doing some practice. Sometimes I'm not doing some practice. This is, yes, true. But what is the alternative? Is the alternative to stop everything? No. The alternative is to intensify it. Never feel guilty for interest in spiritual life. It could be in the bhakti way, jnana way, whichever way. You are interested in spirituality. That is, it's the greatest, the most precious gem in our life. That it brings us it takes us towards God. It is really, really a wonderful thing. That's a blessing of God that you have interest in spiritual life. Yes, you have to intensify. And that's well and good. Never let go. Even if it is mild interest, even if I am just reading something, keeping it intellectually, but if I still have interest, that interest has to be fanned and nurtured.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Thank you, Swamiji. I understand, we have taken the time for the Q&A. If you have some more time, can you just ask one more question maybe?
Is there any other?
No, I don't see a question on the chat box. I have one of my own questions, so I thought I will ask, but I am right now beyond the time, so I'm asking, requesting you. So the question is, this question is about one of the Satsampati Shraddha that you mentioned. A number of times, Shraddha, you gave the definition, Guru Bhakyare Viswas. You said that. And so many times when these kind of thing comes up and we start a discussion or start a particular proposition, I have seen a lot of time a defense like, oh, in science we can't just see this, science doesn't say this or science doesn't say that. So oftentimes we run into this science versus spirituality dilemma. how do we really, respond to that situation?
In Vedanta, the answer is pretty clear. The kind of Shraddha that is spoken about here is not a blind belief. It is not that it is said in the books, Guru has said it, Mahapurushas have said it, so you have to believe, it doesn't matter what. Not like that. That is there in some theistic traditions and some dualistic traditions, and that works also. But here, the approach is much more scientific. Here, the approach is, the Shraddha is required to that extent that there is something worthwhile in the Upanishads, in the Gita, in what the Guru is telling. Let me pursue this, I will realize and see for myself. It's just like science. When I go to Columbia University here and enroll for a physics course or mathematics course, will I go in and into the class and say that the professor is a liar, the textbooks are fake news? Then I will never learn anything. What is the attitude of an undergrad student who goes to the class of a renowned professor of physics or cosmologist here in Columbia? All this is great. I don't get it yet, but I'm sure this is true. Let me work at it and I will get it. As long as the promise is there that you pursue it, you will understand. You pursue it, you will see for yourself, experience for yourself. Then it's all right. That is a very scientific approach. What is not a scientific approach is, you believe this because I say so or the book says so. Then, no, that's just it. Just believe it. That is not scientific. Swami Vivekananda said, if someone says, I have seen and you also can see, you believe that person. If someone says, I have seen and you cannot see, you have to believe in me. Don't believe that person. That's a risky thing.
Okay, so this one came in from chat box again. This unreal world is created by the Brahman, but this unreal world is the root cause of all happiness, sadness, grief, and pain. So why does the Brahman create this unreal world in the first place? And then we have to go through all these methods and training of Advaita Vedanta to overcome the grief and pain of unreal world. Yes. Perhaps a better design would have been for the Brahman to have created a real world.
A real world would be a terrible thing. Then you would have two things, real Brahman and real world. And then there would be no escape from that. Real world means real samsara. So no, the very idea of unreal world only means that Brahman alone is real. The reality belongs to Brahman. Now, notice, in the same world, Krishna lives in the same world. In the same place, Arjuna is suffering and Krishna is not suffering. So it's not that the world really is the cause of suffering. It is the ignorance in our hearts which presents this world as samsara. And that is the cause of suffering. You remove that ignorance, you realize Brahman, the same world will become, Sri Ramakrishna used to say that a samsara, some people say that a samsara is dhokartati, that means it is a place of deceit and fraud. And Sri Ramakrishna would say that ami dekhiye samsar majar kuti. This is a place of joy or bliss. This samsara, this very world. And then real and unreal, it's a technical question. So Advaita Vedanta regards this world as mithya, and mithya is a very technical word. What does it mean actually? And many other schools of Vedanta, they regard the world as real, as satya. But however, nobody would regard the world as important as Bhagavan or Ishvara or Brahman. There is a clear theological difference there. What else can I say about this? The core idea in Advaita Vedanta is, even samsara is not our problem. Our problem is ignorance. You realize Brahman, your problem is solved in this very samsara itself.
One raised hand, Dibyajyoti Dalai. Will you ask a question, please? Your hand came up and came down like that. I saw multiple times.
I think question is answered. That's why the hand came down.
Oh, okay. So if that is the case, then I believe we will just come to the conclusion of today's seminar. Thank you so much.
Anjan Kumar Panda, he has raised his
hand.
Oh,
just now came up? Okay, all right.
I can see Anjan. That, yes.
Yes. Namaskar, Swamiji. Thank you for noticing that. I wanted to pursue the discussion in line of the natural intelligence versus artificial intelligence that came up a while. how do we approach it scientifically? Probably with an abstract, and then so sometimes this is a very high subject that goes above, at least from my head. So wanted to take your guidance on how do we approach even this subject, like natural intelligence versus artificial intelligence.
One clue there would be what David Chalmers calls the hard problem of consciousness. You see, just about every one of the processes of our mind, brain, our sensory systems can be duplicated by machines, sensors, artificial intelligence. So you can see, I can see, but machines also can see in a certain way. If you go to an airport, the door will open. In some way, there is a sensor which is sensing your presence. But does the door have an experience of seeing, a first-person experience of seeing? It does not. And you'll say, how do you know that? Well, you ask the designer of that door, ask a computer scientist, have you designed the doors to be conscious? They will say, no, we don't know what consciousness is, but we know, we can explain how the sensor is working. From there to, say, Google car, self-driving car, everything that you do, I saw in San Francisco, it is uncanny. Everything that you can do, that car is doing, and better. No driver is there. Sometimes driver is there not holding the wheel. Sometimes nobody, driver is not there, passengers are not there, car is going along and is driving as well as you are driving, which means there are sensors there, very sophisticated, which is aware of its environment. There are sensors there, and there is a very sophisticated decision-making algorithms going on in the computers in that car. So intelligence, that is in the sense of buddhi, then memory, perception, everything can be duplicated by these intelligent machines today, empowered by AI. Only one thing cannot be duplicated. That is consciousness. That is this internal first-person experience, which you are having, I am having. Nowhere, I saw in MIT Media Labs and all, what are the latest next generation technologies they're developing, amazing things. But nowhere is there any sign that those machines, those computers, those algorithms have any kind of consciousness within them. They are machines. So this is one clue which will distinguish natural intelligence from artificial intelligence. It's a very worthwhile topic to have seminar.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swamiji. And with this, we'll come to the end of the webinar today. And I really want to thank the audience for being so patient and listening to Swamiji and asking all these valuable questions. Before we end, before we propose the vote of thanks, I just want to say a few things. That we have a normal tradition of donating whatever we can as Guru Dakshina to a visiting monk, visiting teacher. So your donations can be sent by Ejali, and this is OSA Spiritual Forum at odisasociety.org, and we will send all the collection to Vedanta Society of New York for this great, fantastic work they have been doing and Swamiji has been doing for the entire community. With that, I will request Mr. Akshay Rai, Vice President of the Odisha Society, to kindly propose the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Namaste.
Pranam Swamiji, on behalf of OSA, I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude for your wonderful discourse this Saturday morning. And I know you inspire and motivate a lot of us through your deep understanding of Vedanta. And I do personally follow your YouTube talks and lectures, and it has been a lot of learning experience, knowledge for me. And I do hope that many of us here benefit from your teachings all the time. Whenever you come online or through your recorded webinars. Thank you again for your inspirational talk this morning, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And we hope that you are going to come back in future and bless us and impart your knowledge and teachings to us so that we can gain some knowledge. Thank you again. Thanks to our organizers, Manoj Bhai and Yogesh Panda, who is in our spiritual committee. Manoj Bhai, thank you for conducting this webinar. I know we started last year and it has been going so well, and thanks a lot for taking this initiative forward. And thanks to our bhajan singer, Archana Das, and other volunteers who have worked behind the scene. Every time there is an event like this, there is volunteering effort, and we sincerely appreciate that. And thanks to our OSA president, Gyana Patnaik, who is present here, and Pramod, our secretary, Pramod Mahapatra, and treasurer Prachi Behra, and other BOG members for their constant support and encouragement to conduct events like this. We really appreciate it. And lastly, thanks to all of you for sparing your time this morning and listening to this lecture. I hope you all benefited, and have a great rest of the weekend, everyone. Thank you.
We'll just recite a Shanti mantra before we conclude. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Hari Om. Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.